Hey, this is V, and I've just finished reading The Collector by Nora Roberts. So, the main character, Lila Emerson, is a professional house sitter. So, when people need to be away from their homes for an extended amount of time, sometimes they will hire her to look after their houses for them, since it's often safer to have someone in the house rather than leaving it empty. And also sometimes people will need someone to look after their pets or look after their plants, or sometimes do little fix-it jobs around the house that Lila will cover for a bit of extra because she's really handy with tools and stuff, and she enjoys those kinds of projects. Lila really enjoys this job for a number of reasons. It lets her travel a lot and visit a lot of different places and stay in some really fancy homes while earning money at the same time. It gives her a lot of freedom, lets her set her own hours, and also gives her time to work on her writing, since she's also the author of a popular young adult fantasy series on werewolves. This story begins when Lila agrees to house sit for a new client, and it's an apartment in New York. So in addition to all these things, Lila has the hobby of watching other people, or technically spying on other people. She just doesn't really think about it that way, although it kind of is, since she's sitting in the house using a pair of binoculars to watch other people through their windows. And so, since she's in an apartment now, she spends part of her time observing the people who live in the apartment building across the street. And she has a really good view from her current balcony. And the story really gets going when Lila witnesses a murder from her spot across the street. She sees a woman get thrown out of a window, and she learns later that she may have witnessed a murder-suicide. It really shakes her up. She gets drawn into the investigation of this case, and along the way meets an artist called Ashton, the man who was suspected of having thrown the woman out the window is, or was, his half-brother, and his life becomes entwined, I guess, with hers. And it turns out that it's a pretty small world, since his artwork is sold at a gallery that Lila's best friend works at, and one of his best friends is actually Lila's friend's ex-husband from when she graduated high school, etc., etc. So the social connections, I guess, get pretty complicated. And they're all basically trying to figure out what happened, especially since this murder leads to other deaths. And it turns out that the entire situation might actually be way more dangerous than any of them at first suspected. So something that I liked. I really picked up this book because she was a house sitter. I think I enjoy stories that have characters that do unusual professions, and I like learning about different occupations and just things that people do. So it did start off as kind of funny and entertaining, especially with her weird hobbies and her tendency to for instance, make up stories about the people that she spies on. But something I did not like. So this was really more, I think, of a romance story than a murder mystery. The summary originally, I guess, leaned more towards murder mystery to me, but it spends more time talking about the relationship between the characters than it really does focusing on exploring the murder mystery part. And you also have some sections from the bad guy's point of view, so I guess it's not quite as much of a mystery as it could have been. I guess that's actually a flaw for me too. I don't really like sections from the bad guy's point of view, but there aren't a lot of those, so that's a plus. But I didn't really like the feel of the relationship in this case. I guess because Lila, part of the reason she does the work she does is because she doesn't like that feeling, I guess, of being stuck in a particular place, and she's really afraid of making commitments and really afraid of possibly ending up in a long-term permanent relationship. And I don't have a lot of patience for that. Like there's a lot of introspection and like back and forth about that anxiety, and I also find the guy a little too pushy for me. And I think just overall, like there wasn't really I didn't find the relationship, it didn't feel comfortable to me. Like it didn't have the kind of dynamic that I tend to enjoy, and because of that, like I just didn't have a lot of patience for it in the end. And since it was more of a romance than a murder mystery, like that sort of counted against it for me.